What if I told you your most valuable asset was also your biggest liability? It sounds like a riddle, right? But for a multi-million-dollar industry in one of the world's most extreme environments, it is the central, brutal paradox they live with every day. Today, we're diving into the high-stakes business of Himalayan ecotourism, where a premier asset can be a world-class performer for 2 months and a catastrophic financial drain for the other 10.
This statement right here, it gets to the very heart of the paradox. For an investor who's poured millions into a premier lodge in Nepal's Everest region, this isn't some business school theory. It's the cold, hard financial reality they face year after year. So let's break down exactly how this can be true.
And here is where you really see that split personality in action. Take October, the peak of trekking season. The lodge is a humming machine. Occupancy is near 100%. Revenue is just pouring in. It's exactly what the investors signed up for. But then, you fast forward to January. The trekkers are gone. And that exact same multi-million-dollar structure becomes a ghost town. A magnificent shell that's just bleeding cash every single day to cover maintenance, security, and the relentless cost of capital. So look, this isn't just about a quiet month in the off-season. This is the central, defining paradox of Nepal's entire high-value ecotourism sector. For decades, the conventional wisdom has just blamed an unstoppable force of nature, the Himalayan winter. But what if that analysis is just fundamentally flawed? The problem, as we'll see, isn't the environment, it's the business model itself.
To really grasp the stakes here, you have to understand the sheer amount of money involved. We're talking about a typical capital expenditure of $2 million to build just one of these luxury lodges. And remember, these are in remote, roadless regions. Every single component is a massive logistical challenge. I mean, this is an investment on par with prime urban real estate, but, and this is the critical part, it completely lacks the potential for year-round business.
All of this massive investment gets trapped in a vicious cycle, something we call the peak season tyranny. It's a state of built-in systemic fragility, and it's created by a toxic combination of flawed financial thinking and, frankly, flawed physical architecture.
The heart of the financial flaw really gets exposed by one key metric: return on invested capital, or ROIC. Now, the concept itself is pretty straightforward, but the real problem here lies in the denominator of the equation: time. More specifically, the incredibly limited amount of time available to generate any kind of return on that $2 million investment.
This chart just lays it all out, doesn't it? It's brutally simple. A typical city hotel, well, it operates on a 365-day revenue cycle. It has a full year to make its money. The Himalayan lodge, by contrast, has to build its entire annual financial model on a window of about 60 days. This extreme compression forces a price structure that's somehow both crazy expensive for the guest and yet often not even enough to keep the business viable in the long run.
And this financial weakness? It's literally built into the walls of these places. They were architected for trekking, not for tourism. The rooms? Small and functional. Insulation? Often poor or completely non-existent. The whole design philosophy assumes the guest is there to be outside, on the trail. The lodge is just a utility, a place to sleep. It was never meant to be a destination in itself.
So all of this brings us back to the pivotal question in this entire analysis. After all this, is the Himalayan winter, the thing that's been blamed for decades, is it really the problem here?
And the answer, when you look at the data, is a hard no. The problem isn't the environment. It is a failure of imagination, a failure of design, and a failure of corporate strategy. The core liability is a business model that was built exclusively around a single activity that's only available for 2 months a year.
Okay, so if the business model is broken, how do you fix it? Well, it's going to require a complete paradigm shift, a strategic pivot away from selling an activity and towards selling a unique experience. This becomes the new strategic mantra. The industry has to pivot from selling trekking to selling solitude. The goal here isn't to try and convince the same old trekkers to brave the winter. Nope. It's to attract entirely new, high-value types of customers for whom the so-called off-season is actually the main attraction. In this new model, silence and snow aren't obstacles. They're the core product.
So who are these new markets? Well, first up, you've got creatives and executives who are desperate for deep, uninterrupted focus. For them, the product is the Great Himalayan Escape. Second, there's the massive global wellness market, people seeking stillness and rejuvenation. For them, you create curated mindfulness retreats. And third,
There's a growing wave of regional luxury tourists who just want the novelty and comfort of a winter wonderland getaway.
But here's the catch. This marketing pivot, as brilliant as it sounds, is strategically irrelevant if you don't physically transform the asset itself. You have to actually architect the product before you can sell it.
And that leads to a really critical insight. Future profitability in this sector will be architected, not just managed. Market leadership isn't going to be won by pinching pennies. It's going to be determined by strategic capital investment. That means putting real money into superior insulation, into energy autonomy, and into creating incredible common spaces that turn the lodge from a basic shelter into a true sanctuary.
This new reality is setting the stage for what we're calling a great divergence. The entire industry is at a crossroads, really, forcing investors to choose between two fundamentally different paths for the future.
The first option is the path of consolidation. That's where operators just maintain the status quo. They keep competing on price during that crowded peak season, which inevitably leads to financial trouble and eventually getting bought out. But then there's the second option, the innovator's path. Here, a select few will spend the capital to build true four-season assets, capture these brand new, high-margin markets, and basically establish a defensible market position for years to come.
Now, intelligent policy can act as a huge catalyst for this innovation. And I'm not talking about government subsidies, which just reward inefficiency. I'm talking about smart, targeted interventions. Things like a high-altitude hospitality building code to mandate modern efficiency standards, and specific tax credits for winterization projects, to lower the barrier to entry for the innovators.
So this all brings us to the hard truth of the market as it stands today. For 8 months a year, most high-altitude lodges are liabilities masquerading as assets. They are physical structures built for a business model that is simply no longer strategically viable.
Now, the capital and the vision required to make this transformation a reality are immense, but the strategic calculus is crystal clear. The greatest fortunes in the next era of Himalayan tourism won't be made by competing for the crowds in October. They will be made by mastering the silence of January. The only question left is who's going to build it.